coordinated and targeted strikes to degrade the Syrian regime's chemical weapons capability, and this collective action sends a clear message that the international community will not stand by and tolerate the use of chemical weapons.
U.S. allies echoing the president's message to the Syrian regime as they unite to take on Assad. So what message does the global alliance send to the rest of the world? Because not all those countries are created equal when it comes to the support for these attacks.
Here to weigh in, the director of the Heritage Foundation's Margaret Thatcher Center for Freedom and a former aide to Prime Minister Thatcher, Nile Gardiner. Good morning, Nile. What say you?
Well, firstly, I think this was a decisive military strike by the United States and its allies. The president sent the right message to the monstrously evil Assad regime. And the fact that Great Britain and France joined this strike is very, very significant. I think the international coalition sent a message not only to Assad, but also to Moscow and to rogue regimes across the world that the use of chemical weapons, this kind of barbarism and savagery, will not be tolerated by the free world. This was also, I think, very strong, robust leadership by the president on the world stage. He's assembled this coalition together. It's something that President Obama, of course, could not do back in 2013. And so this is a very significant action. And I think it sends the right message to the enemies of freedom across the world.
Well, speaking of messaging, the President Trump tweeting out just a few moments ago in response to the strikes that happened overnight. He said, "A perfectly executed strike last night. Thank you to France and the United Kingdom for their wisdom and their power of their fine military. Could not have had a better result. Mission accomplished." I think the next question, Nile, to you with your expertise is, we did have the UK and we did have France, but we just had those countries up on the screen of allies. How do we get more of our allies involved in helping in this mission, helping to push Bashar al-Assad and put pressure on places like Russia and Iran?
It's a very good question. Even though only Britain and France joined the military action last night, I think you'll find every country, for example, in Western Europe, backing the military action. There is widespread support for the United States. Yet again, of course, Great Britain is the key ally standing alongside the United States here, but also France as well has joined. That's a big deal because, of course, the French have hesitated to join the United States in many previous military actions. So the fact the French are on board is very, very significant. But I do think there's very strong, robust support from across the Western world, but also from key U.S. allies in the Middle East as well. Extremely strong support for the U.S. from Israel, but also from the Gulf states as well, countries who are acutely aware of the dangers posed by the Assad regime and are also concerned, of course, about Iran's growing role in Syria too. So I'm confident this coalition will certainly be expanding.
Nile, as you alluded to, previous attempts to build a coalition to take on Assad have failed. In fact, the first time Assad used those chemical weapons and the red line was crossed, rather than taking decisive action, Barack Obama went to Congress, and there was also a vote in the Parliament in the UK not to be a part of this, not to be a part of any action. Why the change now? And is it more than just symbolism? Because there's some skepticism from Americans that, okay, U.S. is going to do the heavy lifting. Sure, the UK and France will be there, but it's largely symbolic. Is that the case?
I think it's more than symbolism, and both the United Kingdom and France made a significant contribution to the strikes last night. So this is more than just symbolism here. But also, I think it's very important to note, as you mentioned, Barack Obama was not able to assemble this coalition. And in 2013, for example, Britain's Parliament voted against taking part in military action. There wasn't a parliamentary vote in London this time around, but you had steadfast 100% support from the British government for these military strikes. That's a demonstration, I think, of the fact that the United States now has very strong leadership, and that makes a real difference, actually.
Looking at these countries, if we can just put the back up, that have supported the Syrian attacks, one that sticks out to me in particular is Turkey. Talk to us specifically about how important it is for them to condemn these attacks. You think about Turkey, they along with Russia and Iran, have helped prop up Syria in many ways. And them speaking out, that sends a clear signal, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it's very important to have Turkey on board. Of course, a member of the NATO alliance. The Turks are, of course, intricately involved in the situation in Syria. And it's vital, I think, that we have the entire NATO alliance on board. It's also important that we do have Muslim countries on board with this coalition, and we do already have a number of Muslim allies who are siding with the United States here. This is an emphatic declaration of U.S. leadership, and clearly, I think, countries across the world will be following.
All right, now we got to leave it there. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Now.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right, Fox News Alert, brand new video of those airstrikes just coming into our newsroom.
And we're waiting on a briefing.